you have a soulmate? So I just finished reading these 4 books, and they all deal with learning about the afterlife, if you will, or the in-between life using past life regressions. Past life regression is just a form of hypnosis where you put people under and then you can learn about the previous lives that they've had. And this is what they say about soulmates. When we die, we go back to our place of learning, if you will. We live in soul groups. These soul groups are generally 5 to 20 members, and they have a leader who is a more advanced soul that is helping us design lives so that we can learn the things that we need to learn, that we can work through our karma, and so that we can progress as spiritual entities. These soul groups are people who generally work really well together in these karmic lives, right? And so we design them so, hey, you're going to be my best friend in this next life. You're going to be my spouse, or you're going to be my aunt or my uncle or whatever. And so my question to you is, are there people in your life that you know are part of your soul group? These are the people that you meet and immediately you're like, I've known this person forever. Like, it's so cool to me because in these books, there's a lot of times where these people will meet with these therapists and they're just like, there's this person in my life that I just feel such a strong pull to. They'll have a past life regression. And yeah, that person's in their soul group. And yes, there are souls that generally like to spend lifetimes together attached. It might be attached as siblings. It might be attached as spouses. It might be attached as, other significant relationships, but they would be considered soulmates. And it's fascinating because they also talk about a lot of times with these soulmates, you will spend time planning future lives and then encoding signs and hints and things that you will recognize. Because when we come to this earth, right, our memory is wiped. We don't remember anything, but then little events will happen where you're just like, wait, why do I recognize this? And they will lead to these significant moments or meeting significant people. That is all planned. So who's your soulmate?
There will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. With this in mind, I want you to look at this article posted by the Washington Post. It reads, "There's a total solar eclipse coming soon. A rare celestial event is mere months away. On April 8th, afternoon will morph into night for about 4 minutes from northern Mexico to New England. The air will suddenly become colder by around 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Birds and insects will fall silent in the darkness. Confused plants will ramp down their food production. Nocturnal animals like owls and bats will begin to stir. These are the signs of a total solar eclipse, when the moon temporarily blocks all sunlight on a swath of Earth. But this year's total eclipse is special because we may not see another one in the United States for 2 more decades. Now, for just a moment, there can be 2 perspectives regarding this. There will be those interested in science who will say this is a great event, a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. And then, the other perspective will be from those who study biblical prophecy, those who are reading the Bible and watching for the signs. And this group of people will look at this event and think, could this be a sign? Could this be a warning from God? One publication, named Harbinger's Daily, wrote a piece that offers a biblical perspective into this event. And in an article titled 2024 X Solar Eclipse, Coincidence or Final Warning, they say the pattern of 2 solar eclipses forming an X over the US also happened in the early 1800s. The first solar eclipse occurred on June 16, 1806, with the second completing an X on September 17, 1811. The following quote comes from the New Madrid, Missouri website. The New Madrid earthquakes were the biggest earthquakes in American history. They occurred in the central Mississippi Valley, but they were felt as far away as New York City, Boston, Montreal, and Washington, D.C. President James Madison and his wife Dolly felt them in the White House. Church bells rang in Boston. From December 16, 1811, through March of 1812, There were over 2,000 earthquakes in the central Midwest, and between 6,000 to 10,000 earthquakes in the Bootheel of Missouri, where New Madrid is located near the junction of Ohio and Mississippi rivers. In the known history of the world, no other earthquakes have lasted so long or produced so much evidence of damage as the New Madrid earthquakes. 3 of the earthquakes are on the list of America's top earthquakes. The first one on December 16, 1811, a magnitude of 8.1 on the Richter scale. The second on January 23, 1812, at 7.8. And the third on February 7, 1812, at as much as 8.8 magnitude. Could the upcoming completion of an X across the U.S. midsection by the April 8, 2024 eclipse point to another catastrophe in the months afterward?
What we call a superposition of potentials. These superposition of potentials in quantum physics mean that any reality that could happen can happen. But according to the ancient Sumerian tablets, you have the ordainers of destiny who are able to analyze all the different probabilities and then pick a specific one that they wanted to align with their reality tunnel. And what they would do is they would use vocalization, speaking into existence, conscious thought backed by it, to create the reality that they wanted, and then they will put action behind those thoughts and those vocalizations. And so today you would say, well, what does that have to do with me? Well, if you're trying to obtain something like, a new house, a new car, a new job, a new relationship, whatever it is, you have to speak it into existence, put conscious thought behind it, and then take action behind those thoughts to bring it into your reality tunnel and focusing, it's like focusing a beam and bringing it into your reality. No matter what it is, whatever you want to be good at, whatever you want to achieve, whatever you want to accomplish, you speak it into existence. You speak with confidence and power, and never, ever, ever speak bad about yourself.
They have something in space on a satellite called the rods from God. This is a satellite that I know of that exists. This satellite has 20-foot tungsten steel rods on it. These tungsten steel rods have no warhead, but when it's positioned over any country or any city, it can be released to within a millimeter of the point of impact, and it'll decimate that entire region using kinetic energy. So how do you think they get these countries to fall in line with what they want them to do? Imagine you're a country and you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to be able to do whatever you want, and you know that this thing is hovering above you, and we say, listen, if you do it, we're going to drop one. Okay, we're not going to do it. We'll stand down. We'll stay third world. We won't rise up to second or first world. We'll stay back. We'll stand down. They give them a little bit of money, give the leader a little bit of money, maybe install a puppet dictator. You know that thing's over your head. And the Avatar project, they have actual field robots, and where a soldier is in a bunker somewhere, maybe even 1,000 miles away, has a symbiotic consciousness link to the robot to control it. The robot has AI plus its own link, so it can make decisions and you can control it still. They have the craziest tech.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you mentioned the cave system of the United States, where it's the missing 401, right? This picture is from NASA, and it is their collection of UFO sightings within America. It's the exact same as the missing 411.
No way.
The cave systems in America, national parks. Isn't that not wild?
How is that?
Wake up, people!
Why would NASA put that out?
It was their press conference where they did the whole talking about UFOs and like what they could be, or the sightings or whatever. It was like a couple months ago when they did that.
Gotcha.
But they showed that picture of like, these are the regions of the U.S. where there's the most UFO sightings. We talked about the Solomon Islands and stuff, and like the cave systems of like where these supposed like giants live. And I mean, just like everywhere, dude. It's like,
Even if you weren't taking like a spiritual take on it, it just makes sense that they would hide there. It's an unexplored area. There's water source, and if they come out often enough to get food, like it just makes sense that they would chill there.
What I want to ask Nate about Bigfoot is I caught that episode about the mermaids, and they talk about how Bigfoot can teleport interdimensionally and stuff like that. And to me, that's a little bit of a roadblock
yeah, sure.
that I can't
It's a big jump.
that I can't cross. Why can't they just be using caves
Yeah, they could.
to disappear?
Or could caves be portals?
I don't know.
Hey, that's what the show Dark about going to the cave, and no joke, there's a portal into time, like it's time travel, but it's who knows?
What does gravity do in the middle of the Earth?
Ooh, I don't know. We don't even know what's in the middle of the earth.
No, we don't.
Except for- Yeah, I'm telling you, Mrs. Barker.
I tell you,
Who did you get in an argument with?
Yeah, it was Miss Barker. It wasn't an argument. It was just like they called it the
Core theory.
core theory. Yeah, Earth's core theory. Like, so it's a theory.
Yeah.
Well,
no, it's a fact.
What if the Earth is like hollow? This is just me being trippy right now, but you can go down a cave and then basically jump off a ledge in the same way light or things bend around a black hole. You could literally ride a gravitational bend to another underground cave and like pop up in a different region.
Bro, there's so many cultures throughout the world. We talked about the was it the Shambhala or whatever, the Hollow Earth city or whatever, the Indian culture, Buddhist culture, all that stuff. They talked about this civilization to escape this mass cataclysm of the flood and stuff. They literally had tunnels or cave systems that went into the earth to the Hollow Earth where they would emerge on another part of the planet. So it's not it's not a crazy thing to like come up with.
Yeah.
Because there's so many cultures that talk about the people in Solomon Islands, apparently the US, like with the cave systems, the ancient people of India and Tibet, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Tibet, baby.
Well, and then, but like, okay, on the flippity flip, we also used to think that the Earth was flat and that the sun revolved around the Earth.
Hey, how do you know?
Your memory, it's when you get like an organ transplant or a blood transfusion and changes to your personality occur that match the donor. I got some fresh stories for you. So these 3 stories come from Paul Pearsall. He's a neuropsychologist who's written many books on the subject. All right, the first one's about a bloke from Lawton, England. All my British followers, you guys know I freaking nailed that accent. I can promise you no more accents. This guy was a catering manager, okay? Loved food, did not have artistic ability. After his heart transplant, he found he had this innate ability and love for drawing. He got the heart from a donor that was an artist. This next story has quite the butterfly effect. There was a young lady who was a very passive, very timid young girl, and she fell in love. And unfortunately, when things didn't work out, she did something where she died in the hospital. Jim needed a heart and lung transplant, and he was the recipient of that young lady. According to Jim's family, he is a very aggressive type A personality, but after he received that heart and lungs, he became very timid, very sullen, and had depressive episodes. He actually died a couple of years after getting his transplant, but this is where it gets weird. Enter Fred. Apparently, Tim's heart was good enough that Fred received it as a transplant. Fred was a very shy, passive man, and when he received Tim's heart, he became aggressive and type A. Where it gets really awkward for Fred is when he was being intimate with his wife, often he would refer to her as Sandy. Sandy is not the name of his wife, it is the name of Tim's wife. Fred's wife's name is Karen, of course. But Fred would say, it would just slip out. He's like, for some reason, I would want to say the name and call my wife Sandy. Number 3, this case Dr. Pearsall called the gender transplant. So there was a girl who was a very happy-go-lucky girl. Her mom and her brother would refer to her as kind of like the hippie type, okay? She was vegetarian. She actually ran a health food store. She was very into connecting with the earth and very into open love, okay? Her mom was like, she had a different guy every other night, and she was very boy crazy. Well, unfortunately, she died in the hospital after a car accident. The recipient that received an organ donation is self-described as being one of the biggest fans of McDonald's. She said, McDonald's makes so much money off of me every single year. What's interesting about this is not the fact that she turned vegetarian and that the smell of McDonald's after the transplant would make her sick. The fact that she never wanted to touch meat again. No. What's interesting is before the transplant, she was into women. After the transplant, her preferences changed. And she would continually talk about the fact of how she felt at odds with herself because before she knew that she was never attracted to men, but after the transplant, she became boy crazy and actually ended up marrying a man. 3 more stories that just blow my mind. There are so many more. I'll keep doing these videos as long as you guys.
Nope, this is not just a car, but one that will require zero charging, and the US is doing everything to not let this get out. A Zimbabwe inventor named Maxwell created a power generator that does not require charging or electricity, but gets its electricity from frequencies in the atmosphere that can power not only cars, but up to 300 houses for no cost. The generator is believed to be able to help millions of poor people and completely end the need for anyone to ever buy power again. And people don't know where Maxwell is anymore. Since its invention, Maxwell has been found in Zimbabwe prison, as well as when he flew over to the US, he was immediately poisoned and sent to the ER, with his technology company coming out to say there's some horrible people who are always working to try to destroy us. The generator has also been rejected by the US market over and over again, as the government does not want people to know about this. Many experts claim that they have never seen the technology work. However, is that the truth, or is that government media?
This is one of those videos that hit different. And looking at it from his perspective, I want to say he's 100% correct. The lottery could possibly be a scam. And here's why. Lottery scam. Run that video. Comment below. Have you ever won the lottery? I know I haven't.
The lottery is not only one of the top 5 biggest scams in the United States, it is also one of the biggest ways that we could hit the government right where it hurts, in their pocketbook. If you think about it, every time there's a multi-million or a $2 billion Powerball jackpot in New York State or in the United States, the only person that has a 100% guaranteed chance of winning every single time is either the IRS, New York State, or the federal government. Because no matter what, every single time there's a drawing and someone wins, they are also a winner. They take 50% in taxes. So every single time there's a lottery drawing, they are winning $1 million, $5 million, $100 million, $2 billion. So I will admit, I have no idea where that money that they are guaranteed to win every single time to the tune of billions of dollars is going. So my thought is, our chance of winning the Powerball is near 0%. The government's chance of winning is 100%. So if we really wanted to hit the government where it hurts, we as a population would stop. We would stop participating in the lottery. That's a guaranteed way that the government will get billions of dollars less every year. The lottery is a scam. Let's stop participating.
The Grand Grimoire is purported to be a secret book stored in the Vatican archives. It is considered a real book because the Vatican claims ownership of it, but has never allowed anyone to view its contents. Allegedly, the book was discovered in the tomb of Solomon in 1750, yet it bears the date 1522. The author of the book, Honorius of Thebes, is said to be Satan himself, or possessed by Satan for the purpose of writing the book. Some theorists suggest that the book possesses supernatural qualities, as it cannot be torn, burned, pierced, penetrated, or otherwise damaged or destroyed. It is claimed to be the only book containing the knowledge of a precise ritual for summoning Satan and other powerful demons. Additionally, the book is said to include precise information about the locations of biblical relics, and even contains Satan's personal sketches of the faces of Judas Iscariot and Jesus Christ.
Catholic Church is hoarding so much knowledge that it's unutterable what they're hoarding in that 5-mile underground cavern that they've got there. They even have bodies, dead bodies of beings down there too. And it's really a travesty what's happened with the information and the knowledge, how it's being hoarded and hidden away from mankind. So much information is down there, it's mind-boggling. The Library of Alexandria in Egypt that supposedly burned down, it did burn, but that was just a distraction. It was a book heist. And where do you think those books are now? They're in the Vatican.
In the Bible, you have the Tower of Babel incident, when Yahweh returns and sees that the humans are building this tower. Well, Yahweh had gone away for a while. And if you go into the Sumerian tablets, you discover the same exact story. The Bible copied it from the Sumerian tablets. Yahweh is Enlil, Enki's brother. Yes. The evil one, the true Satan, the Satan, the Lord of Eden. That was his name. But he had gone away and to wherever they go when they leave, whether other planets, other souls, who knows where they go. But when he came back, this tower was being built. So obviously he's not omnipresent, because he would have known it was being built if he was a real creator of the universe. It shocked him, and he realized that humans had the capability to not only catch up to the Anunnaki, but maybe even surpass them. And that's when he knocked down the tower, then took the people who were working in unison together as one, separated them, split up their languages, and put them all over the world, spread them out. Then they put genetic markers on the people, creating Asians, this, that, everybody was one. Then became, I'm Asian, I'm an African, I'm a red man now, I'm an indigenous person. There's a 2% variance between an African American, a Caucasian, an Asian person. This 2% variance can't just happen by pure evolution, not in this small time frame. It would take many more millions of years to get these variances. I'm not dark, you're not dark because the sun was shining on our ancestors in Africa. We're dark, this color of melanin, because of a 2% variance in genetic material that has now been scientifically proven, and it's peer-reviewed biology, it's real science. So this variance in genetic material is what makes different races. This was done, and also another thing that was done by him was he fused chromosome number 2 and put a telomere cap on each end so that we can only live to 120 years maximum. And Harvard scientists just discovered that that's a fact. A human being can only live to about 120 years under the most pristine conditions. And they've now learned how to stop that shortening of telomeres and extend the life of mice like 3 times longer, which means they can do it in humans as well. But they go away and they come back. So Thoth will go away at some particular time on maybe other missions on other planets, or maybe even other dimensions, who knows, and then return at a later time. But he talks about our cycles, and he's waiting for us to grow up. And so I think a lot of the other possible benevolent ETs that are out there, they're waiting for us to get to a point where we overthrow this oligarchy, this 1% that's running 7 billion people. That's got to end. For us to come out of our stupor and realize that we've got to come together as one for a common goal, overthrow the current capitalistic society that we're living up under, and put together a new system and work towards moving into that golden age again. And I think that's when we're going to see a lot more interactivity from people from other places, which I would like to just call our cousins, our star brothers. They're all related to us. Humanoids basically dominate the entire universe.
I'm not crying, you are. There was an 18-year-old boy who was highly musical, loved to write poetry, and unfortunately he died in an automobile accident. So this story comes from a document by Dr. Paul Pearsall called Changes in Heart Transplant Recipients That Parallel the Personalities of Their Donors. There was an 18-year-old girl who had endocarditis and had heart failure. She was the recipient of the boy's donor heart. Parents of the young man were so sad about their loss that they didn't change anything in his room for over a year. But once they started to clean the room, they looked at his notepads that had like his books of poetry and different things on it, and they found something super interesting. First thing was a poem about how he was going to die soon. The second was a song called Danny, My Heart Is Yours. And it talked about how he was destined to give his heart to someone else. Enter the recipient. She met with the parents of the donor and immediately recognized the pictures, and she was like, I know who that is. She's like, he is in me, he is a part of me, and he is my lover. And I don't know if we were like separated from other lifetimes or whatever, but it's like, I feel his love for me. Oh, by the way, her name is Danielle. So the song, Danny, My Heart Is Yours, yeah, about her. She also talked about how after her transplant, her love for music grew. She had this desire to write poetry, write music, learn how to play guitar. But her dad is quoted as saying that she feels so strongly that her soulmate came to this earth and gave up his heart so that she could continue to live. And he was like, I don't get it. This sounds crazy, but she has such a strong connection with him. Anyways, this is something called cellular memory. If you don't follow me, I've posted a bunch about this, but this is after people get something like a transplant, whether it's heart, lungs, or even like blood transfusions. Little changes or big changes can happen. It can be a change in preference, an alteration in emotions or temperament. It can also be modifications to your identity and even taking on the memories from the donor's life. This stuff is wild.
Bridge right there. He says they walked across on dry ground, 900-foot wall,
which has now dominated the entire planet. That's not an accident. The English language is the weakest language. And what I mean by that, words have power. Words can literally affect and change the ether of space-time itself. And the further back you go in time, the closer you get to the language of light, which is what the ancient Kemetic people and Egyptians would speak back in ancient times. Those words had supreme power over reality itself. Just speaking certain ways and saying certain things voice can control different outcomes, because we know cymatic frequencies, which are created by our vocal cords, they emanate out of you. We think they're just words, but they're actually codes that the universe picks up, programming codes, and then the universe then enacts those codes. That's how a lot of things happen. And so it's a way of, creating different realities, and it's the power of the voice and the power of speaking. And so, coming into English, which is now dominated the whole planet, we have one of the weakest forces that we can speak. It's easy to understand, it's easy to pick up, but it has the least power over the space-time energy.